Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Arena Brawl video. Although this time we're not doing Standard Brawl, oh no. This time I'm delving into Historic for the first time as far as Brawl's concerned. And we are doing that with History of Death, which is built around Vraska, Swarm's Eminence, which is one of my favourite Planeswalkers. Well, in fact it is my favourite Planeswalker from War of the Spark, and has been one of the cards that I have spent the longest time building around where I can. And unfortunately, in EDH, Planeswalkers can't be commanders, so Vraska Swarm's Eminence doesn't really get a chance to do much outside of Brawl. And now with Historic Brawl being 100 cards, it's interesting to work with, since it then ends up being essentially a light version of Commander in that regard, except we can also have Planeswalkers as commanders, which does mean that Vraska finally gets to be at the helm. Now, unfortunately, there's a few cards that aren't able to go in, because they're not on Arena, that would be in variants that I have in paper, such as with my Oathbreaker deck. Examples of that are Rancor, which is just a great 1-mana +2/+0 and trample effect that also returns itself to my hand when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, which makes it a really effective way of putting it on a cheap 1-mana Death Toucher, swinging in, having that trample damage so it's going to connect, and then if it's blocked and killed, I get the Rancor back. Really effective at being able to get the most out of Vraska. Another is Tuskguard Captain, which is essentially a trample enabler. Hornbash Mentor is pretty much the closest we've got, and it's sort of like it's the opposite of a Hornbash Mentor. Hornbash Mentor puts +1/+1 counters on things with trample. Tuskguard Captain gives trample to creatures with +1/+1 counters on. So it's essentially is then able to go, so any of my Death Touches that have made contact and got their +1/+1 counters from Swarm's Eminence then have trample whilst it's on the field. And then the final card, well, I guess there's actually a couple of final cards. There's the last one that I've got on hand is Rayan, Last of the Abzan, which is essentially, it serves a similar purpose to the Ozolith, so it's not quite as necessary. However, it does have the advantage, and they do work well in conjunction with each other, because those counters go onto the Ozolith, whereas Rayan, I believe, puts that many counters on something. So if Rayan's on the field and creatures with +1/+1 counters and the Ozolith, then whenever a creature dies, I get to put that many counters on something, and then that many counters also go onto the Ozolith. But yes, so outside of that, the deck is pretty straightforward in what we're trying to do. Vraska cares about Death Touchers, and so we want a lot of Death Touchers. Not everything's got Death Touch. We have things like the Midnight Reaper and the Cavalier of Night, and a few mana ramp creatures like the Paradise Druid and Incubation Druid, just because of the fact that they are able to set us up better. They give us more mana for future turns, they reanimate things, they give us card draw, they essentially allow us to keep going, since we're expecting our Death Touchers to trade. And unlike in Oathbreaker, where I also get to have, as my signature spell, Gruesome Menagerie, so in the event I run out of cards and I've traded all my creatures away, I can just bring back 3 more of them again. We don't always have that as an option, and so being able to keep having fuel to go is a lot more important. Something that has to be focused on a bit more. However, that being said, this deck was last edited. I've only put in Tainted Adversary from Midnight Hunt so far. This was essentially made when I came back, when Historic Brawl was first introduced with 100 cards as a continuous format. So I've not actually gone through and crafted anything yet that I didn't have previously, outside of lands, I think, since lands are always going to be useful. And so there's definitely a lot of cards that could be changed, have room to be added, and hopefully will improve the deck as a whole. However, if Historic Brawl does remain as a mainstay format, which it looks like it will, then I am probably going to edit this deck over time and try and get it to be the best it can possibly be in the constraints of Historic. Now, without further ado, let's get into some games and see how this does. Okay, we're up against Rakdos the Showstopper. So, I think this is an alright hand. We've got 3 lands out of 4, we've got 2 creatures we can drop. This gets to enter tapped, Blooming Marsh gets to come in untapped. I'll probably... Okay, yep. Oh, that's great as well. I'll probably start with the Aetherborn, as it has the better body. Finn can come in later and start getting those poison counters going. However, I do expect it to hit removal. Now, that does raise a question as to whether I drop the Leyline Prowler or Finn now, because they can and most likely will make me discard with that. I think Leyline Prowler is still better. Yep. So I've got 2 pieces of removal and a Finn. I presume they take the Finn, because they are on an open board. Alright, so you know about the Reliquary Tower, we'll drop that into a Vraska. Get this ball rolling.
Time to step out of the shadows.
Languish here would really screw me over.
Nobody appreciates my
Gotta go into it.
People call me a death dealer, but I rarely offer discounts.
Okay, that's fine. Ooh, great henge. Love to see it. Let's attack. They'll probably block the... Nope, going for the Aetherborn. Alright, that's fine. I guess Showstopper's going to be coming down here. And then we've got to see how our luck plays out.
But I rarely offer discounts.
I will drop this. What's the wording on this? Non-token creature. So I'm going to hold back on Vraska, because sure I could do it and it's an extra coin flip, but I'd rather guarantee the ability to get it out if I get unlucky here. So I'm quite happy with that. It's perfectly acceptable. Alright, now this turns into card draw. I forgot to tap that for life. Perfect. Alright, you 2 attack. You presumably block the Gifted Aetherborn.
Pirates and I get along because we're both cutthroats.
Alright, I'll drop this now. Should have probably dropped it first so I'd get the death triggers. Heck, another land. Great. And we'll make this time.
People call me a death dealer, but I rarely offer discounts.
So I could Assassin's Trophy the... Oof. I am going to Assassin's Trophy that, I guess. Okay, all other creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever another creature dies, you get energy, and then 2 pay energy. Creature card from graveyard on the battlefield tapped. It's pretty good. Takes out my Paradise Druid and one of my tokens, and there's Zombie. So that's 3 energy. It's pretty decent. Pretty effective trigger that, but I do also now get to drain them for 3. This is untapped, correct? Yeah. End of their turn. Just to be mana efficient, I will blow up that Field of Ruin. Embodiment of Agonies, great. So, we'll kill you. Swing in with these two. Down to 3. 2 more counters. And this is a demon, so it can't even be killed by Rakdos. And draws me a land. Alright, I need one of my other creatures to survive and I'm good. That went quite well, I think. Yeah, there was a bit of a coin toss there, though I did have another card draw there. Yeah, that also did it. So, good spot there. Quite glad that that went as well as it did. Although it is always a literal coin toss when it comes to Rakdos. Okay, Raff Capashen, Ship's Mage is here, and I do quite like this. That always enters tapped. Both of these enter tapped, unfortunately, but it's a fine hand. We've got 3 lands. We need 1 more, and we still have a Vampire of the Dire Moon and Chevel for those turns, followed by Hornbash Mentor. Non-human, so it would have to be the Vampire of the Dire Moon. This always enters tapped, so we'll play that first. I guess that is the one downside here, is because of, whilst my curve is on point, the third one isn't quite as much. There's my 4th land at least, so we'll get you down so that we have both our, well, both of our tap lands out of the way. So I believe this gives Historic Spells Flash, so we're presumably playing against, well, I guess it can also be a control deck. I'd presume that they'd be playing quite a few historic spells to capitalize on that versus some of the other more controlling ones. Yeah. Alright. So this can only make mana for Planeswalkers, so currently just white. So it's a trample counter. So let's see here. I guess this is a more threatening body. Probably should have still attacked first, just in case they have damage-related combat tricks. But it looks like we're in the clear. Well, that works in our favour if we get a better creature out later. Alright, we get out our Vraska.
Time to step out of the shadows. Oppressors deserve whatever I feel suits them. I'm an artist when it comes to
In fact,
murder.
these are just assassins, so yeah, if we're able to ever get rid of that glass casket, we're in a good spot. Now, hopefully they keep not playing basic, so I can keep this as a cheap Hagra Mauling. I do also have Gruesome Menagerie, so... they played a basic. Okay, so lifelink. Whenever a creature attacks you, whenever they cast a spec and spell each turn. Alright. Well, I guess we'll scry. I don't need that right now. And we'll just phase this. Just clear Megara right out of the way.
my services. It may cost you
All right.
I'm running out of room to store my
Now,
trophies.
hopefully we don't get board wiped here. That's the one downside with going all the way down with Vraska. Is I do need Proliferate to then get her back up. Yeah, there's a board wipe to be expected. Should still be fine. We do have... I should have played the Cryptic Caves there, so I could have sacrificed it. But yeah, we do still have Chevel, who... who will start getting bounty counters on, so they're not going to want to block with the permanents they stick things on. And then if they both die... Well, if they die, then I can Gruesome Menagerie, get 2 back. I would want to blow up this Glass Casket if I can, but I've got to draw an answer for that first. Ooh, Tavera is not who I want to see.
Let's keep up the pace.
That is not good. Still grows from punching, but... It's... Whenever a permanent opponent controls with it dies, so... Yeah, that's got to go on there. Alright. Tainted Adversary. How many can I make? It's just one at the moment. I need another land to get a double trigger. Let's see. I guess we punch Teferi. Still get the counter. Do I wait a turn? This is 1 mana, so I think I don't. And then tap down. Oh wait, can't do that. We need a black. There we go. Alright. So now we should be able to take out Teferi unless there's another board wipe. Which could very well be the case.
Let's skip to the good part.
Okay, Raff coming in is a good sign that it's not a board wipe. Does also imply that they... Oh, I forgot to draw with the Cryptic Caves. Well, so... I do now think I have to attack with everything, because they block the biggest thing. And I only attack with 3, then it's 4, so Teferi lives. So, fortunately it is everything at Teferi. And they do now have Flash on all of their historic permanents, so they could still save Teferi. Let's see what they do. Okay, Teferi is down.
That didn't go according to plan.
So I get my counters, get my card.
Nobody appreciates. Oh, I'm running out of room to store my trophies.
Alright, we got an overgrown tomb. I guess I've got 2 lands in hand, so I'll activate this now. See if I draw anything more useful. Rapid Bite. I think I'll hold on to that. I still have a Gruesome Menagerie, and that can... Okay, so Mind Stone, just a little bit more ramp. Because, yeah, anything they want to do this turn, they can do anyway with Raff. I guess they could now potentially, you know, draw go and hold up everything. But I'll be able to get a counter onto Raff first before I go for the Rapid Bite. And I then still have the Gruesome Menagerie available to me. Okay. Some good card draw. That is their turn, though. So I'm feeling pretty confident about having a decent attack, followed by a board wipe, where I can Gruesome Menagerie 2 of my things back. Alright. Both my creatures are bigger than Raff, so I'll attack first and see whether or not they want to take a trade. Which will almost definitely suggest to me a board wipe. Oh, no, they're just going to go for protection, which, fair enough play. They name black. So, I can't kill Raff this turn.
If you need my services, it may cost you more than just money.
I'll hold on to the Paradise Druid for now. Yep. It's a good card. Glad I attacked first, because otherwise I'd be down the Rabid Bite. Yep, and now they've got an entire turn of whatever they want. So... okay. I can Paradise and Cavalier of Night. So I'm going to go for the attack first again. They could settle the wreckage. This is true. They're going to take the damage.
I'm an artist. How you lived is how you'll die.
Let's go for the Rabid Bite. Because if they have another way to give protection, then Cavalier won't hit it. So I'd rather go for the fight first. Flashing in a Ugin. Alright, well, my stuff's about to all get exiled. Unless I draw... okay, return graveyard to hand. Yeah, that is an Ugin. That's a creature. Yeah, this does nothing now. That's just a creature an opponent controls. So, unfortunately, nothing I can do about that. -4 hits all of my stuff. But it does get me my Horn thing back, unless they do 2. So... although it then doesn't get a counter or anything, which is a shame. Let's see what they do. I'm still not out of the woods. Yeah, they're doing 2. They don't want to do the glass... oh no, Glass Casket is 2. Okay. I'll get back my Mentor.
Silence.
But yeah, that they've got the mana, they can Raff again. Okay, so... I think we play out the Paradise Druid. To sacrifice it to Cavalier of Night. To kill Raff, to punch Ugin for 3, so they can't do more. Yeah, I expected a counterspell to come up sooner or later, but I still have the recovery for that. And I will still make the swing, because they will then have to replay Raff. Hornbash would get exiled anyway with Ugin. They'll have to minus Ugin again if they want to get rid of the Paradise Druid. Okay, they'd rather just take it. Okay.
This world's balance.
I mean, I guess they can plus Ugin and kill Hornbash Mentor. But now I have a great gruesome menagerie if I'm able to get rid of Ugin.
Greatest creation.
Which is the issue, is I need removal for Ugin. If Ugin's gone, then I've got a shot. But it's not looking promising. Even though I've got 35 life to 11. Ah, and that's a second Ugin. That's now able to create small blockers.
Secrets manifest before you.
So they have attacked in. They do still have another counterspell available to them with 3 mana. I think I've got to go for it. This is not a good state of affairs, one. Because yeah, I get rid of that, they get a card to hand. I punch Ugin. No, I think I gruesome menagerie. This is awkward. Yeah, I'm not sure how I come out of this because that dies. Returning that, I have to play something else to sacrifice. So I do have the Murderous Rider. I have the Murderous Rider. Wait, Murderous Rider? Yeah, Murderous Rider. Okay. If they've got another counterspell, I am screwed. Alright, I am going to just good game at this point, because I don't have a way out of that, unfortunately. Yeah, because let's see. Because Gruesome Menagerie, whilst Ugin's got more than 3 loyalty, you can just, like, at 4, I Gruesome Menagerie, all 3 come back, Ugin -3s, exiles everything. So that doesn't work. Getting the Murderous Rider is my only hope. I could... Yeah, and then that gets shuffled back in. Yeah, unfortunately, just far too powerful a set of cards for me to deal with a low-to-the-ground board like I have. Alright, Yarok is... Oh. Loading issues. But yeah, Yarok is not the sort of thing that I want to see. It's a pretty powerful option. Interesting. But I don't think that's quite going to cut it. It's marginally better. Yeah, okay, we'll keep this one. That is a tempting offer. That is another land that I think I'll actually drop next turn. Yeah. So, play out our Sedge Scorpion. How horrifying. And this does have to enter as a land, unfortunately. We did draw our Grim Dancer, so we can give that... let's take our swing first. We give our Grim Dancer Death Touch and Menace. Nothing so far. Interesting. Well, I'm going to drop this. Since if they drop Yarok next turn... Oh, they've not got any green. So, interesting. That's a land that enters untapped. That's a creature... that means I can play my Planeswalker and grow all of my creatures.
I'm listening. Keep your friends close.
Alright.
Kill your enemies. I've done things. I'm not
Next turn is
proud of.
probably Guardian Project. Still no green. That's kind of unfortunate for our opponent. There's no point me minusing here, because if they've got a board wipe, then... Yeah, if they don't have a board wipe, then I've got them. So, that... Unfortunate for our opponent there, and I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that one of my wins was literally to somebody missing a colour of mana. But then at the same time it's Yarok, so maybe, yeah. I think if they'd curved out, it would probably have gone really well for them. Okay, Heliod is an interesting one. Although, unfortunately, this hand is not going to cut it. Alright, this is better. Okay, yeah, I'll keep this. Question is, do I think we start off with the rats. Because if we draw another land... Well, we've still got to turn 2 play with Enforcer. And if we draw another land... Okay. So... I think I still go for Enforcer first. This means I potentially don't play anything next turn. But if I do draw an untapped green source, then Finn comes down, 2 poison counters. If you gain 3 or more life this turn, that's technically a land. Tricky decision, because I can play that as a land and then that enters untapped, but I'd rather have this as a removal. They've got a basic dancer that's going to always be 4. I can't play anything else anyway, so we'll do that as a land. It's unfortunate, but I knew the risks, and yeah, we've got the result of those risks. Okay, Speaker of the Heavens. Allow me to get a green source. Oh, too far. So, I think they missed a land drop, so I'm perfectly fine here.
Coming until it's too late.
So we swing with both of these. Alright, they take the trade with the Typhoid Rats.
I'm running out of room to
Activate this here.
Nobody appreciates my handiwork.
So we've got plays. Our opponent apparently didn't, so alright, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we have a Trostani Discordant. Now, the Oakham adversary against green is great, but I currently have no green, so... Okay, here we go. We can work with this. Fortunately, both of us enter tapped, but we do have 2 2-drops, so... Yeah, Foul Orchard, Swamp, Cheval, Guildgate, Enforcer. Seems fair. Malakir Rebirth isn't too bad. It's a 4th land drop, if nothing else. So this may dissuade them from playing a creature. However, I do expect, being green-white. Yep, alright, so swing in. Presumably no blocks. We drop our Enforcer. Oh, not Reese. I need Reese gone. Okay, so we've got a couple of options here. So I think I attack with both. They decided not to block, so Ocarina Assassin. This is a land. Now, unfortunately, all of these have tap abilities, so they can all tap down and not get hit by the assassin. And Reese is just... well, Reese. So, it's 3 mana to make a token. That can only be activated if they've got more life. The green is cheap enough that they could do that if they wanted to keep the Guildmage safe. It is awkward for me because I want the Guildmage to die, but I also want Reese to die. That is more token generators. Alright, Archon can deal with one of them. Cavalier of Night can deal with another. So maybe that's what I do. They've got 3 mana, so alright, we'll go to combat. And they're now considering which one's abilities to activate. They can do it in response, so if we attack with this, all creatures able to block have to do so, so we'll attack with all 3. So now here is your chance. Alright, interesting. So, with this in mind, we want Reese to die. So that can double ones, that creates big tokens, but big doesn't mean anything to Death Touchers. I mean, I'm glad I've now not played that into a Cavalier of Night. But it does make me feel bad about not dropping my Vraska. That is not worth bringing back alone. So, okay, let's see here. Dropping this, minus, create a token. I mean, they're not going to want to attack with most of these, right? I'm going to have to take that chance.
It's time to step out of the shadows. People call me a death dealer, but I rarely offer discounts.
I mean, I guess, yeah, even if they attack with everything right now, Vraska will... yeah, they have to attack with everything for Vraska to die. So they're then giving me the choice of what dies. Alright, so... we attack with the Enforcer. They can block with the Conclave Cavalier, and I should have also probably attacked with a token, actually, but I think this is fine.
Oppressors deserve
Okay.
whatever I feel suits them.
that can get back Ocarina Assassin at the moment. Well, you know what? You know, I'll hold off the Cavalier of Night for now.
I'm running out of room to store my trophies.
And we'll instead play out all of this. So, Death Touch, Menace. I have a Gruesome Menagerie, so that is a Galta. Galta is dying next turn. So, block with one of these. Yep, that does it, but that's fine. Vraska dying is not a problem.
Pity we couldn't have been allies.
So, we now Cavalier of Night. And we'll sacrifice. That's got Planeswalker Death Touch. This only has Death Touch on attack. So I think we actually get rid of the Lightfoot Rogue to destroy that Galta. And then I'll attack in with this. Since that will get to take out two things. Okay, that's the Parallel Lives. It's also not a great card for us. There's our 1-mana Death Toucher, which is great. So let's see here. So we have a 2-mana and a 3-mana, so that's got to get in the graveyard for that to be worth bringing back. I think we attack with these two, since Cavalier does get us something back if they block to kill it. Alright. So I can then get back the Ocarina Assassin. I can also play out Isareth and potentially bring back Cavalier of Night. So, yep, I want that to die, and then they get to keep their 2 elves, because, yeah, fewer token generators. I mean, that's got lifelink. Yeah, no, I think that's fine. And then we get back our Assassin. We drop our Moss Viper. And we drop our Isareth. Which means next turn, if we don't draw a land, we can Isareth back our Cavalier of Night. Since, yes, they fortunately haven't seemed to have hit any land drop since 4. And that is great for us, because I now get to do this. So, presumably, they activate Reese to make 2 more tokens. I will then pay X, and X is 5. We'll sacrifice the Moss Viper to blow up probably Reese. Yeah. And they can play green to give trample to... Nope, they don't. So we'll kill the Conclave Guildmage and finally draw our card. and then I can Gruesome Menagerie again to get back the Ochran Assassin. They finally got their 5th. So they come out swinging for a decent amount. That's a lot of tokens. And they do all have lifelink. Okay, so what do I kill? I kill Trostani. Although that does make things so... Okay, so let's do a play-by-play here. That's a lot of power to... Okay, actually I think if we kill Trostani, these will go down to 1s. We put up the Parallel Lives. Parallel Lives is better to bring back. If I attack with Isareth, I can 3-mana Ochran. No, I think we just get Ochran back now. Don't want them to swing with the lifelinkers, but currently I've got favourable blocks on all of them. So, yeah, I think we do this. We get all 3 of them back. No attacks. Alright. So we then Assassin's Trophy this. Just wanted to see if I got anything else. So they'll gain 4 life and they should die. I have nothing in graveyard, so I don't need to pay for Isareth. Oh, nice. I forgot about Settle the Wreckage. I completely forgot about Settle the Wreckage. That serves me right. The good news is I can now play everything I ever wanted. And this does thin my deck quite a bit. Oh, I'd have got quite a big punch there as well. There's still nothing in graveyard, so it'll still do nothing there. We'll drop the Gifted Etherborn. And I guess the Boot Nipper. So yeah, they get more tokens. I got bamboozled. Should have done the maths and just swung for the minimum amount of lethal. But I completely forgot that this is Historic, and Historic has settled the wreckage. So yeah, I take out one of the lifelinkers. Alright, so we'll play this. We'll sacrifice this. Should have probably done this first in case I got Great Henge. That's not a Great Henge. This. Drop this.
I lead the Golgari now. Step aside.
Just drop this and still have the mana to Khan's Bastion. Can proliferate my Death Touch counters.
People call me a death dealer, but I rarely offer discounts.
Right, theoretically I should. 69 cards, nice. Okay, yep, they're now all even bigger. So yeah, they settle the wreckage. I have remembered that it exists. So yeah, I probably should have just hit the parallel live, since the Trostani would have been killed by the blocker anyway in that case. So now everything's going to trade that blocks. So I'm going to take out as much as we can. So this is still probably lethal. So we will take out the big ones. Nope, not double block. Single block. Okay, and then I'll activate this because I can. And yeah. I won't even minus Vraska. They deserve that. They pulled it right over me. So they deserve this. And yeah. So let's look back at, oh, well, we need to exile. So they were on 5, I believe. They had 4 life linkers. That's why I got rid of that, because that then reduced the power. So with my attack, had I just attacked with the Assassin, Cavalier, Grim Dancer, and I think Isareth was good for recursion, so Lightfoot Rogue. Yeah, Lightfoot Rogue would most likely have got the +1, and then if I was feeling, and then probably the tokens as well, just to make sure that if that +1 didn't get there. But nope, forgot about Settle. Well played, King of Tendies. You got me good. So that was the deck in action, and it did alright. There were a lot of games where we were close to winning, that we just weren't able to close out, and there was a decent amount where we got the ball rolling and I just misplayed horribly and threw away any chance of actually winning those games. So there's definitely room for improvement. I can definitely see it being iterated on and essentially being able to become a good deck and hold its own in the much more aggressive, high power is probably the better word, format that is Historic. And so I've got some notes on some of the cards. I just had a quick look through of what cards can be considered for the deck, and I forgot that this had been added. Collected Company. We immediately are able to get potentially 2 of our many, many cheap creatures in a single turn, which makes it a very cost-efficient inclusion. And in the same vein, we can go for Storm the Festival, which not quite as good, as it's more expensive and also sorcery, so it's got to be done during our turn. But it does have flashback, and it does let us then hit our bigger creatures, and it still is also permanent, so we can also get our Planeswalkers in there, which are available, or Guardian Project, and then in the worst case scenario, lands. There are obviously a few things that aren't hit by it, but in general, it's probably a good inclusion. And if we were to include that and Collected Company, we'd probably look at seeing what we could trim out here, because Aggressive Mammoth is great for giving everything trample, but there are other options that are cheaper than that. Less flexible, such as the... what's it called? I mean, I guess in a worst case scenario, we stick in one of the cards that I've got as a question mark of Garruk's Uprising. So... which just gives all of our creatures trample. It gets around that issue, and it sometimes will draw us cards. Not always, unfortunately. because, yeah, most of our creatures are more on the small end that grow bigger over time. But once again, the trample is the main thing we're going for there, with a little bit of extra card draw as a bit of an advantage. But that's not a strong, oh yeah, this is a card that definitely should go in. We have, on the protection side, Heroic Intervention. It gives all our permanents hexproof and indestructible. It's a nice solid option for just a bit of versatility. Honestly, I should probably craft one, because yeah, any green deck that I do in Historic will probably benefit from having it in. We then get into the Death Toucher creatures, where we, first of all, Bone is going to bring up loads of results. Bone Picker. It's a 3-2 for 1 if they trade into one of our cheaper things. So yeah, we can reliably get it down for 1, and having the Flying Evasion does give it a lot of extra reach. So it's a fair inclusion. Could do good work. Downside is it does get missed by the Collected Company, but I think it's a fair trade-off for the power that we're able to get on the board for a single mana. Then we have Nighthawk Scavenger. I've not got too much in terms of things that will affect an opponent's graveyard. We've got removal options that can hit most things. Most of it is essentially hoping that they trade in with creatures, but it means that it's probably going to be at least a 2-3, probably closer to a 3-3 in most situations when it hits the board, which is already decent, and then it's got flying and lifelink as well as the Death Touch, so all around very good option there. If we got enough rogues in as well, we could theoretically put in, I can't remember it, it's the 1 mana one that has Death Touch as long as there's 8 cards in an opponent's graveyard. Gets +2/+1 and Death Touch, so and then mills whenever a rogue enters. It's a decent option if we get it enabled, but it's not a good option as a cheap one. It's similar in the Knight of the Ebon Legion spot there, but at least Knight of the Ebon Legion is able to pump itself big and gets counters, which then plays into the rest of our game plan just through the opponent losing life. So, although Knight is still a card that will probably be considered as a cut at some point. Another maybe one is Harvester of Souls. That is missing an E. Harvester of Souls, it's another draw card effect, except this one has Death Touch. So, the pros versus Midnight Reaper is it has the Death Touch, and I don't lose the life. The cons are it's 6 mana, so it doesn't get hit by either Storm the Festival or Collected Company, and it's then also a lot later for it to come down. So, but then at the same time, it enters with a much bigger body. There's more power behind it on hitting the field. It can be a good way of closing out the game as a threatening card on its own. We then have Tetzamok. Tetzamok is great fun. It's another big Death Toucher. However, because you can put prey counters on things, we can have Tetzamok enter as effectively a board wipe, a one-sided board wipe, so long as we have spent enough time setting it up. We can only activate the ability during our turn, so the opponents do know that we're going to kill things, but we can do it the turn before we intend to play Tetzamok and essentially set things up there as a decent thing. Liliana's Reaver is a 4-mana 4/3 that gives us 2/2 black zombies whenever it deals damage to a player, as well as making them discard a card. I'm not 100% sure on it, because it's a really good effect with it, but that just means that the opponent's more likely to want to trade with it, and with a body of a 4/3, it's a lot easier for the opponent to block and kill. So, it's got potential, I'm not sold on it. Then we get a couple of cards where it's a bit of a maybe. So we've got Insatiable Hemophage, and I can't ever remember Perpetual, and the Playcrafter's Familiar, because these both basically fall into the same category of we're able to give Death Touch to something that doesn't normally have Death Touch, and this one's arguably better for that in the sense that I can play it and then give it to a card in my hand before I play it, whilst providing a body for a Death Toucher, whilst Hemophage mutates onto it, so it then becomes the same creature. So, yeah, there's arguments for both. I've got a small number of creatures. The only creature that the Hemophage can't go onto, because Mutate can't do humans, that doesn't already have Death Touch at least, is the Hornbash Mentor, which would probably get cut for something else, given the opportunity. I think I need... it's great if I'm able to get down an effect that gives everything trample, but currently I don't think I have enough things that give everything trample for it to be too noticeable, because I think it is just the aggressive mammoth at the moment. Yeah. So, those are options if I had fewer Death Touchers in there, but once again, not too heavy on it. Now, one that I noticed that is probably going to be included as soon as possible is Hornet Queen, since, yeah, that's flying Death Touchers, and it creates 4 green insects on entry with flying and Death Touch. So we have successfully managed to produce ourselves 6 powers worth of a flying Death Touch for 7 mana. And then we can obviously trade as necessary if we're getting attacked by a lot of things. And then if we're able to get a swing in with that, with Vraska on the board, then we are able to grow that quite exponentially. It's a very good inclusion and is almost definitely going to go in there at some point. And then that finally leaves us to the final card on my list of cards that are in Arena, which is Forebear's Blade, which gives Vigilance and Trample. So it's a good set of keywords, as well as the +3/+0, to give to a creature, in the same way as with Rancor, where creature gets equipped with it, we swing in with it. If they block it, we only have to assign 1 point of damage to it, so all of the rest goes through. And the Vigilance means that we can keep it up as a blocker as well. And the plus with Forebear's Blade is when the equipped creature dies, we attach it to another creature we control. So we can effectively attack with 1 Death Toucher at a time, and always have it re-equipped to another Death Toucher to keep providing value. So those are the main considerations that could go in and make it better. However, the other card... Actually, there is one other card, sorry, I lied. Because it's in a separate bit of my notes, which is Sareth the Viper's Fang. So it gives other tapped creatures I control Death Touch, and untapped creatures I control Hexproof. So, it's not the best. Also, I missed another one off of here, which I'm surprised by, so bear with me with that. So yeah, the plus with this is we're able to give all of our creatures Hexproof until they attack. We're able to protect them whilst they're untapped. And it gives Death Touch to the few other creatures that I have that don't have it. But I don't think it's quite enough on its own, given that it doesn't give itself Death Touch or have Death Touch itself, to necessarily be worthwhile. As opposed to the card that I was comparing it to, that would go in here if it was in Arena, and I will just type it in just in case, which is Oran Frostfang, which gives attacking creatures Death Touch, and is able to make it so that whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, I draw a card. So it's able to fuel my draw engine as well as providing the Death Touch on any of my creatures when they attack. So, which then means that they all work with Vraska's ability. It's a great inclusion there. And actually, finally this time, not sure how I missed it off, is the other Ronus, which would definitely go in the event of the Collector Company Storm the Festival, since it gets hit by both of them. It's indestructible, so we're able to get around a lot of sweepers, and we only need to have another creature with power 4 or greater for it to attack, so we can quite easily use in the late game, that we can play out of Vraska, we can minus Vraska to make a 1/1 assassin, and then we can spend our mana the following turn to give it the +2/+0 and trample, probably twice, to get it big enough for Ronus to attack. And then, if we have anything that's got even a single +1/+1 counter on it, then we're able to make it big enough to yeah, it's easy enough to turn on and then start swinging, and being a 5/5 indestructible creature with Death Touch, it's a lot harder for the opponent to just clear out. So, another very good inclusion that would probably go in the deck. So yeah, there's options. There's ways that this deck can be reshaped and changed and improved. So, I am looking forward to seeing what I'm able to do with it in future. The one concern with it is the spending of wildcards, as, yeah, a couple of those were uncommons and can quite easily be tested out, see how they work, but then there's quite a few of them that are rares and mythics, and I probably will craft a couple of them at a time, just to give them a try, see how they work, see how things fare with them, but I don't want to craft all of them at once. I'd say probably Collected Company, Heroic Intervention, and Hornet Queen are definites that I'll probably make, since Hornet Queen I feel is just such an obvious include in this deck, and then Heroic Intervention, Collected Company are routinely good. They get played a lot in a lot of decks and will probably be seen again, so I don't feel quite as bad about crafting those right off the bat. The rest of them, not quite so much. We'll see where we stand with them later. However, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed playing through the games, even if I spent a lot of it getting my ass beaten. But yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. And with all that said, take care, and I hope to see you next time.